Story 1, Weed. I know people say it isn't an addiction, but I can't live without it right now. I'm going through a lot, and it's the only thing that seems to help. Story 2. I purchase a lot of items mostly due to fear of missing out, but sometimes it is a form of retail therapy for me. Story 3. Heroin and fentanyl. 3 years clean at the end of this month. I have pretty much tried all drugs, but these were my weaknesses. I am currently vaping nicotine and using marijuana, but my consumption is decreasing with spring and summer here. I want to spend more time outside and be more active. Story 4. Opioids are challenging. I was on Suboxone for a while, but now I have a monthly dose of Sublocade. I am sober now and feeling like my life is back on track. Please don't start using oxycodone, codeine, or any other opioids. They ruined my life 3 times, and I am done for good. If you're struggling with this, please message me and we can talk. I'm always willing to listen. Story 5. Stimulants in general, such as caffeine and nicotine, are consumed. I avoid illegal stimulants because they would definitely cause issues. Story 6. Sex is something I think about often. Talking about it is important. I have one partner, and I would engage in sexual activity with him daily if I could. Story 7. Ice cream. I find a new flavor to focus on for about 3 to 4 weeks at a time, then switch. Right now, the flavor is bluebell cherry vanilla. Story 8. Food. I am diabetic but really like things that are not good for my condition. Each day is a victory when I get through with just meat, vegetables, and a little bit of fruit. My motivation is checking my blood sugar levels each morning and seeing a good score, along with the 45 pounds I lost when I started a diabetic-friendly food intake. However, I really want pizza, tacos, a sandwich with bread, and key lime pie. I think about these foods at least a few times per week. If I do end up having a cheat meal, I tend to fall off the wagon hard, making it difficult to rebound back to healthier eating. Fortunately, this is my only addiction. I feel for those who have more serious addictions than mine. This is enough for me, and I can't imagine the feelings others must experience with theirs. I sincerely wish them luck in overcoming their challenges. Story 9. Being awake at night by myself, minding my own business. I love it when everyone else sleeps and nobody needs my labor or attention. Story 10. Video games have been a significant part of my life. I grew up in a challenging home environment, and my escape was always video games. Over the years, I have easily played thousands of hours, particularly considering my experiences with various consoles. I couldn't afford high-end PC gaming. I played so much that it affected my daily work and school responsibilities. Even in games like World of Warcraft, which ran at only 12 frames per second, I found myself deeply immersed. I often hid how much I played from my girlfriends. What guy hasn't felt some shame about playing video games around women? Admittedly, I was trying to justify my behavior to potential readers. I have since gained a better handle on my gaming habits. However, when gaming becomes a coping mechanism for so long, it can become your default response. While there is nothing inherently wrong with it, it can lead to other unhealthy patterns. Self-isolation can become the new normal. I was never as extreme as others, but I recognize that isolation made me view face-to-face interactions as less meaningful. While I never devalued human life, I certainly diminished the importance of human connection. It became comfortable to the point that I now experience anxiety when going out, which wasn't an issue for me before. There are varying levels of addiction, and comparing oneself to others is often a way to excuse personal temptations, in my opinion. I love video games, and I always will, but the saying, everything in moderation, holds true. Story 11. I have gained 100 pounds since the pandemic. Food became my comfort when I was unemployed, lonely, and bored at home. I am on a weight loss journey now, but it has been very hard to quit junk food, especially sugar. I hope to face all the challenges that come my way during this journey so I can become healthy again. Story 12. Bugs, tarantulas, spiders, millipedes, stick insects, isopods, mantids, beetles, and any other invertebrates or arachnids I can add to my collection. Story 13. Food. I just want to eat. Somehow, since September, I have lost 90 pounds. I was told to lose weight, and I am. I would love nothing more than to get a bag of nachos with various dips, enjoy a pizza, a bag of Reese's Cups, or just indulge at Taco Bell. Story 14. I have an unusual situation. I have a car addiction. I want to go bankrupt by buying a hangar and hoarding them. Story 15. Food. Decades of eating disorders, cycling through anorexia, binge eating disorder, and bulimia nervosa. I'm always stuck in one or more of those. Anyone else struggling with the same, particularly if you're young, please get help and don't let it rob your life. It's not your friend or a clever trick. Your worth isn't measured by weight, and any eating disorder will never provide the comfort you seek, nor will it silence your pain. It will steal your light, wreck your body, and hurt those who love you. Story 16. I don't have any more. I dropped cocaine, amphetamines, meth, ecstasy, weed, and so much more. I like to experiment with drugs. Thank God. Now I neither smoke cigarettes nor drink alcohol. 1 year, nothing. Story 17. I acknowledge that I am an alcoholic and I enjoy drinking, despite knowing how detrimental it is. I limit myself to drinking once every 2 weeks and have recognized it as a problem since I was 21. I had 2 drinks the day after my 21st birthday, and I am now 36. I have never driven after having even a sip of alcohol since then. I understand that it might be easier for some people to just stop, but I am not an angry drunk. I never wake up worried about my actions because I am fortunate to be an overly friendly and caring drunk. I must be very careful during difficult times in my life to avoid drinking entirely, as it can take over if I do not manage it properly. Story 18. I think my loneliness and lack of dopamine contribute to my interest in pornography and sexuality. Additionally, platforms like YouTube and the internet play a role. I don't have friends to spend time with in real life, and it's challenging to find new connections because I tend to be too introverted and isolate myself. Story 19. Distractions include substances like marijuana, cocaine, and casual relationships. Anything to prevent me from reflecting on the world and the difficulties of life. Story 20. Do you really want to know? Masturbation. I can spend 3 hours without realizing it. It's a great way to waste time and enjoy the moment. Story 21. It started with a few flower kits, but now I'm working on a $200, 504-piece Porsche 911. I also have a Ford GT40 and a Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle kit in boxes, yet to be assembled. The spending hasn't been too bad so far, but I'm concerned that my addiction will soon lead to an $850 Eiffel Tower, a 10,000-piece kit that stands about 5 feet tall. I can envision myself downtown with a sign that says, "Will work for Lego." Story 22. No negative addictions right now, other than my phone. However, a more positive pursuit is converting my property to a native prairie. I wanted to share a picture, but unfortunately, I can't. Story 23. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so my brain is wired for dopamine seeking. My addictions include alcohol, social media, games, and cell phone scrolling, along with delicious food. I love to cook, one of the purest forms of producing happy brain chemicals. I enjoy preparing a fantastic meal while sipping on some rich red wine or oak-aged whiskey, all while savoring a great piece of steak and roasted garlic potatoes. Story 24. I am a recovering alcoholic, 26 years sober. 1 drink would lead to more, so it's a daily reprieve. I don't think about alcohol much anymore. I dated a man who smoked and found myself asking for a puff occasionally. Soon I was smoking a pack a day. I quit cigarettes but now chew nicotine gum. I've done this for years. I switched to sugarless gum without nicotine but learned they make sugarless nicotine gum. I'm addicted to that now. An addict finds things to get addicted to, such as sugar, sex, exercise, and relationships. Anything that gives instant gratification. Alcohol took me 5 years without relapsing. I think nicotine is just as difficult to stop as drinking. Story 25. My phone keeps me up late and makes it difficult to get out of bed in the morning. I'm improving, but I'm grateful to be going into the military. I could only see things getting worse from here. Story 26. Nicotine, primarily from cigarettes, is my main focus. Vapes do not appeal to me. There is a hint of alcohol in my routine, but I often go several days, if not weeks, without drinking. However, when I do drink, I tend to consume a significant amount. Story 27. The only thing I have never done and will never do is crack, or anything involving needles other than tattoos. I am finally clean for the first time in over 25 years, but the cravings are still there. Story 28. Raving and the substances that come with it. No more cocaine or alcohol, though. That's how I ended up with a foot amputation. Story 29. My wife and I are roommates in our 30s. I have developed an unusual preference for older women, specifically those who are bigger and more mature, typically in their late 40s to mid-60s. While it may be unconventional, I believe it does not harm anyone. Story 30. Caffeine, nicotine, Adderall, and lifting weights, along with the dopamine hits I receive from compliments on my appearance. I find myself spiraling into thoughts about not being good enough and needing to work harder or do better. Story 31. Cars. I got a turbo car for the first time. I love the surge and burbling noises a turbo car makes. I enjoy sporty, fast compacts. I'm addicted to the sounds and the smell of fuel. I just can't do electric cars. It's not the same. Story 32. I enjoy Reddit, reading, and retro films and TV shows. I maintain a good balance with everything else, including sports, hobbies, exercise, family life, and work. However, I can get sucked into those activities, and hours can go by without me realizing how long I have been engaged in them. I used to have an addiction to crafting and art, but I have mostly moved past that and now only participate in all-day sessions rarely. Story 33. Sugar and eating. I'm not even hungry 90% of the time that I'm eating. It's more like a boredom or chasing flavor situation. I've been trying to stop for a while now and have successfully lost 43 pounds since 2023. However, I sometimes sabotage my progress by returning to old habits. Thankfully, I haven't regained any weight, but it's still frustrating. Story 34. Being a hermit who enjoys solitary activities in my yard while working on small projects and seldom speaking to anyone. However, I have children, so this isolation only works when they are at school. The rest of the time, I am simply a very busy wife and mother. Story 35. Drinking mostly water, coffee, beer, pineapple juice, and Islay Scotch means I always have some liquid in my hand. NBA 2K12 has been my comfort game since its release. I constantly browse for things to watch and buy, but mostly I do neither. I enjoy complaining. It has become a pastime for me. I often joke that a New York Jew or German has nothing on me when it comes to complaining. I would love to complain for a living so I could retire tomorrow. Story 36. I love to schedule my entire year, but after 2 days I give up and replan it. This cycle goes on and on. Story 37. Procrastination, unfortunately, is something I struggle with. I'm addicted to the feeling of putting things off and buying time. Story 38. Fast food, staying indoors too much, and laziness are challenges I am trying to overcome. Some days are better than others. Story 39. I used to be addicted to pornography, sugar, and doom scrolling, but I managed to overcome those. Now, it's just the nicotine addiction that has to be defeated. I also have regular phases where I am addicted to destroying myself in the gym. Story 40. I used to dye my hair, drink, and play Pokemon Go. I have stopped all those activities, so now I feel boring. Recently, I did try to get addicted to nicotine and coffee. Story 41. Ice, chaos, feelings of emptiness, and overall despair surround me. I see nothing fighting for a good thing or for positivity. I feel worthless and struggle to see any good within myself. I continuously feed the negative while hoping for positivity, only to self-sabotage every bit of that hope and fail. Story 42. Ordering food has caused me to waste a lot of money. I don't even want to think about it. A few weeks ago, I realized that enough was enough. I have been doing really well since then, and I hope to maintain this progress. Story 43. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. I've been sober for over 5 years, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. What am I doing about it? Everything. Getting sober requires a total psychic change, or, said another way, a massive paradigm shift in one's perceptions, thoughts, actions, and reactions. It is the human equivalent of a complete overhaul. It is through this process, which requires honesty, open-mindedness, and a lot of work, that one can get a daily reprieve from the insanity of alcoholism and addiction. Notice that I said daily reprieve. I don't get to rest on my laurels. I don't get to coast on yesterday's sobriety. To do so is egotistical and dangerous. I truly believe that I'm not cured, but only that I've found a way to live in a healthier way, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, every day. I'm currently addicted to reading on a question and answer platform. 2 years ago, I saw this platform on my brother's phone. When I opened it, I read some related stories that resonated with me, and I also found lots of motivational quotes. I was curious to read more, so I installed it on my phone and began reading. I was very weak in English, so it also helped me improve my language skills. It's a positive addiction, and I utilize my free time in constructive ways. I've been using it for a year, but before that, I didn't open it because I didn't understand anything. I didn't even know how to write on the platform. Now I open it 5 or 6 times every day. Story 44. Spending money can range from $4 on a coffee to $30 on a shirt. I am more mindful of my spending now compared to the past when I would spend hundreds on unnecessary items. However, I still feel the urge to spend on things. I am working on overcoming this tendency. Story 45. I recently quit after over 30 years. It's freeing, but old habits die hard. Now I need to stop drinking and then stop smoking. By that time, I'll be so old that I could indulge in everything because, hey, you only live once, right? Story 46. My wife's body is captivating. I always want to touch her, squeeze her, cuddle her, and be intimate with her. I simply cannot get enough. It is like I am addicted, which sometimes makes me late for work and affects my ability to be productive. Although it may not be the worst addiction in the world, I cannot help myself. I have felt this way since we met 18 years ago. Story 47. I jump from addiction to addiction. When they say it's a disease, I truly believe that. It involves either smoking, using marijuana, alcohol, benzodiazepines, or gambling. Life is not easy, but I will overcome it. Story 48. Currently, Coke Zero and the latest album by Def Heaven. Story 49. Chocolate, cookies, and video games. Retro types like Nintendo 64 or PlayStation 1 are healthy indulgences. Story 50. I used to drink 2 or 3 cans or bottles of soda every day. I don't crave it as much now, but I force myself to have only 1 soda on Saturdays. I'm drinking a lot more water. Story 51. Binge eating disorder. I had weight loss surgery 4 years ago and lost around 120 pounds in 8 months. I was not mentally prepared for the rapid changes in my physical appearance that I saw in the mirror, and I didn't know how to handle it. I still struggle to accept my slimmer body because I always imagine myself as obese. About a year after surgery, I began hoarding food I received from people online through free sites and marketplaces. I would select the goodies from what I received and give away the rest. I would binge on that food: cookies, baked goods, candies, boxed and bagged items, at night when I found myself alone for hours before going to bed. Even though I could only eat a small amount at a time, I would take breaks and continue eating. It became a compulsion, and hoarding food became an obsession rooted in reasons I still don't understand. It took a year of therapy at an eating disorders clinic to overcome my binge eating disorder. But I did it. I began feeling better about controlling my obsessive-compulsive disorder as well. I stopped hoarding shortly after I started therapy. However, about 4 weeks ago, I started binge eating again. I recognized the behavior immediately and informed my therapist, but she is not trained in eating disorders. She is doing her best to help me, though. This compulsion has caused me to regain some of the weight I have worked hard to keep off since the surgery. I am extremely disappointed in myself and feel like I am on a slippery slope back to obesity if I don't get this under control as soon as possible. Story 52. Alcohol, vaping, nicotine, and cell phone use are concerns for me. I drink once every 2 weeks, which is better than the every Friday and Saturday routine I had all winter, but I can't seem to give it up completely. I vape every day and use my cell phone a lot. Story 53. Trying to get as far away from this family as possible. Another country across the globe if I have to. Story 54. Kratom and more recently 7-hydroxymitragynine have raised concerns. I had to use Sublocade to free myself from this substance. While I believe it has great potential for harm reduction and relief from chronic pain, I do not think any drugs should be illegal. However, it is important to recognize that this substance is highly addictive and acts as an opioid. It has gained more attention recently through podcast hosts and the rise of feel-free shots. Trust me, it is best to avoid it. Story 55. Snow. Not an addiction like shaking or withdrawal, but an addiction in that I really miss it when it's gone. I think about it every day. It makes me happy and I am productive when it's available. Story 56. Monster energy drinks. I usually have 3 to 4 a day. Occasionally I have 5, but I become very concerned about my heart at that point. I know it's incredibly foolish, and I am asking for trouble, but I don't know how to stop. It's one of the few things I look forward to in the morning. Story 57. I love having intimacy, and it doesn't matter if it's with a man or a woman. There is something about the connection that has me captivated. Story 58. I have eaten parsley straight since I was a child. It's a tasty snack for me. I eat at least 2 pots a week. I believe it's the only thing preventing me from anemia, as my little sister is anemic. Story 59. I have 9 consoles and almost 1,000 games, most of which I haven't even played yet, and I still feel the urge to buy just one more. I also consume a lot of gaming content. Story 60. Video games are an underrated addiction that many people, including doctors, do not take seriously. While they might not be as harmful as crack cocaine or gambling, they can still have devastating effects and be very hard to quit. This year, I have been successful in trying to eliminate the games I consider more risky, such as competitive online games like Dota. I have compensated for the urge to play with less demanding single-player offline games. However, before this, I struggled my whole life to keep it under control. Story 61. Every time I'm in a relationship, I find myself constantly feeling overly sexual and wanting to engage in sexual activities frequently. I wish this desire would diminish, as it has negatively impacted several good relationships. Story 62. Sudoku used to be 3 or 4 games a day, but for the past year, it has been between 15 and 20 games per day. I am falling behind at work and losing hours of sleep most nights because of it. On the bright side, I can finish most puzzles in under 5 minutes now. Story 63. Casual relationships are what I seek. I am clear about my intentions and communicate that I am only looking for casual encounters. I believe this honesty prevents any misunderstandings. At this point in my late 20s, I have been intimate with approximately 103 to 107 different women. I keep a notebook with their names to track my experiences. My goal is to engage with over 250 different women during my lifetime. Story 64. People use addiction as a throwaway term. Most people are not addicted. Overindulgence does not equal addiction. It's no different from the "I'm so OCD" crowd. Story 65. Soda, or as we call it pop, is something I know I shouldn't drink and I try to cut back. However, every time I go a long period without it, my mood plummets. Just a couple of sips perks me right back up. Story 66. Weed, alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, pornography and masturbation, phone addiction, short-form entertainment, sugar, and sports gambling. Story 67. Mine was vaping in high school. A lot of people don't realize how addictive it is, even if they're addicted to it themselves. Most people never come to terms with it. I vaped for years, not having any money myself. It got to the point where I neglected other people just to hang out with those who had vapes. If someone refused to give me a hit for some reason, I'd practically beg for just one. A friend of mine vaped a lot too, and we both agreed that after quitting, We feel much happier and fresher since our brains don't rely on it anymore for a boost of dopamine. Our depression and anxiety levels have plummeted since quitting, and you don't realize how much of a negative toll it actually has on you until you quit. I found it much more addictive and much harder to quit than cigarettes in my experience. I believe it's because vaping is more casual in the sense that you can do it practically anywhere at any time. The easy access seemed to make it easier for an addiction to form. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.